Hi, my name is Neil Sullivan, and I'm a Strategic Partner Manager for F5. So today I'm going to go through a whiteboard that I use for my partners. Wanted to present it to you. And really it covers a couple basic things. Number one, what F5 does, and number two, why you would want to sell F5. So let's go ahead and get started. To really understand what F5 does, it's important to go through load balancing 101, because what's interesting is 9 times out of 10, when I ask somebody, hey, what do you know F5 for? What do you know that F5 does? The answer I get is load balancing. And while that is true, if you talk to any of our account managers or sales reps, typically they're not even going to mention load balancing in the elevator pitch. So we'll get to the elevator pitch, but I do think it is important to understand load balancing 101 to really understand what F5 does. So let's go through that. Here's a diagram, a real basic network diagram of a hardware load balancing scenario, where you have a pair of hardware load balancers in front of servers, and they're balancing the workload amongst these servers. And again, load balancing is what it says it is. It's balancing that workload so that you don't have one server operating at 100% capacity. And what we mean by capacity is both storage capacity as well as CPU utilization, while another server is at, say, 10% capacity. Because in this scenario here, you can see that this server is going to burn out pretty fast. Not only that, but the applications that are being served up by this server are going to perform poorly. So just by deploying a hardware load balancing environment, you're going to balance that workload and extend the life of your servers overall. On top of that, you're going to improve the performance of the applications that are being served up. Another thing that load balancing is doing is if a server should die, it goes ahead and reallocates that workload to another server, maintaining session persistence as well if it's done right, which I can tell you F5 does. So we're also balancing the workload if one of these servers should go down. And then on top of that, you typically deploy hardware load balancers in pairs so that you don't have one point of failure, a single point of failure. And by doing that, you want to make sure that neither of them is at 49% capacity themselves. So they both are at less than 49% capacity, so that if one of them should go down, the other one can handle 100% of the workload. And that's it. That's load balancing 101. So I mentioned earlier that F5, typically we regard load balancing as something that's just a basic functionality. And really anybody could take a generic server and turn it into a load balancer. And what we've done really to elevate the game and our game is make our load balancers application fluent. And that has really been a game changer altogether. So to understand our elevator pitch, you'll recognize real fast that we're really all about the applications. So let's go through the elevator pitch for F5. And it's simply this. F5 is all about delivering applications to users. And we make those applications fast, secure, and available. And that's it. That's the F5 elevator pitch. Everything we do can stem from this conversation. So F5 is all about delivering applications to users, making them fast, secure, and available. And you'll see as we go through the products and what you'll be looking for out there, that everything that we do can really stem from that conversation. So why do you want to sell F5? Why do you want to sell F5? Why would you want to make us part of your business? Honestly, I think this is probably the most important part of my presentation today. Why should you sell F5? I believe that F5 has as strong a case as any vendor that you would make as a part of your business. So let's talk about that. I always like to start with margins, because really that's what we're here for, to make money. And to cover our margins, you really want to understand our deal registration program. And our deal registration program is somewhat unique. We actually have a patent pending on it, and I'll show you why, but it also plays right into your hands. So our deal reg program works simply like this. If you do not have the deal registration, you are at 13 points of margin. And a lot of people will ask me, what's the minimum deal size that qualifies for deal registration? The minimum deal size really, if it's one of our smallest pieces of hardware, any piece of hardware really, is registerable. So if you're selling a 1600 big IP LTM, you can register that opportunity. Now, here's the unique part about our deal registration program. We have 2 tiers when you do get the registration. The first tier is called fulfillment. And with fulfillment, at the specialist partnership level, we'll use that as our example because your margins are going to be based on your partnership level, you will be at 27 points of GP, still pretty good margin. And what we mean by fulfillment is you're fulfilling the deal. Maybe you're passing the paperwork, or we've brought the opportunity to you. So still pretty good margin, but here's where it gets fun. This is where it gets interesting. We also have another second tier that's much more profitable. We're going to pay you an additional 6 points by earning what we call PVD. Partner Value Discount is what that stands for, and that means our partner is adding value. And you can earn PVD by doing things like bringing us a net new opportunity with an existing customer or a net new customer. Or maybe you're using engineering resources for the opportunity, or you're driving it from start to close, or you're using one of your eval strong boxes and you're providing a strong box so that the customer can do an eval or a try and buy. Just by doing those, you're going to earn PVD. And for those partners that are bringing us opportunities, that are recommending F5 solutions, we want to make that more profitable. We want you to be rewarded for that. So we will pay you an additional 6 points, and with the specialist partnership level, you are now at 33 points of margin, 20 protected points. On top of that, we even have an additional kicker. So if you are incorporating us in a VMware project, and it's a VMware opportunity, and you introduce an F5 solution to that VMware project or that VMware environment, we're going to pay you an additional 5 points for that. So you will now be at 38 points, more margin than we have ever offered before. And we all know that VM projects, VM space is white hot right now. And F5 has a great story to tell around VMware. It's an excellent technology partnership. So we love VMware projects and opportunities, and that's why we will pay you more for those. So definitely, if you can, get your ORAN number from a VMware project and include that when you're registering F5 to tag us into that. Or you don't even have to be the reseller that's selling the VMware solution. If you know of a VMware project and you bring us in to that opportunity, you can still earn that VMware discount on that opportunity, even if you're not reselling the VMware. So a lot of good opportunities. I've seen one partner sales rep close a deal that was worth less than $100,000 that was tied to a VMware project, where he actually kept more than $24,000 in gross profit on the deal because he brought the opportunity to us and he tagged us in on a VMware project. And the customer was still happy. They still got a decent discount out of that. So really good opportunities to make good money with F5. I'm not saying that every deal is going to be that rich. We want to win every deal, obviously, but at the same time, you know that that's a good telltale sign that there's good money to be made when you're selling F5. Another great reason to sell F5 is we are the leader in our space and have been for a very long time. So if you take a look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant for our space, which is, they've coined the phrase, application delivery networking. If you take a look at the Magic Quadrant for that space, you're going to see we are the technology leader. And if you look over the past history, we have been for a very long time. So we dominate this space. And we are far up and to the right. But also, if you take a look at just simple market share, you'll see that F5 has much more market share than anybody. Even Cisco, and in a networking space, that's significant. You know, this is our space. We focus on this more than anybody, and we are all about the applications. We are all about that critical location, essentially that last hop before the server serving up those applications. And that's why we are the dominant leader, that we really focus on this more than anybody else. So another great reason to sell F5. So what's our secret? What makes us different than the others? Why are we the leader? Well, our secret sauce is TMOS. That's our operating system that's purpose-built for delivering applications over a network. So it's our own operating system that we built from the ground up And again, it's purpose-built for delivering applications over a network. So that's what's made our load balancers application fluent. That's what's given us the incredible speed and performance, as well as the incredible scalability. That's the difference maker right there. And essentially, that's become a platform for all of our solutions. So again, TMOS is our secret sauce. Another great reason to sell F5, and this is probably the #1 reason to sell F5, and I get more compliments on this than anything else, it's our resources. And when I say resources, I really mean our sales resources. F5 is channel-centric, we're easy to work with and engage, and our sales teams will help you get opportunities qualified. They'll tell you, yes, it's an opportunity, go ahead and register this, and then they're going to help drive it all the way to close. And we want you to make money too. So you're going to find our team as second to none to work with in the industry. And really, I get more compliments on our sales teams than anything else. People have come to expect great technology out of F5. They've even come to expect a great deal reg program. And there's a lot of vendors out there that can boast good technology and even good deal registration programs and maybe even good margins. But if they're impossible to work with, if you can't get them on the phone or if you can't set up a conference call with your customer on the phone, what good is anything else? All the other things are really useless to you. You can't make that vendor part of your business. And this is probably the #1 reason why our partners like to make F5 part of their business. It's our sales teams. And then finally, there's no forklift needed. Most of the time when you're selling F5, you're going to help your customers get better use out of what they already have. I'd say 7, 8 times out of 10, they don't even need to forklift what they currently have in their infrastructure. They'll be able to get more out of it or use it elsewhere. So that's a big selling point. On top of that, we go along with all the things that you are trying to do anyway. So you're already selling solutions to your customers to build out data centers, to consolidate data centers. You're already helping them with their virtualization projects, their security projects. So it's a simple question to ask, hey, have you talked to F5 about this? Maybe they're deploying a new application or they're trying to fix an application, downtime or poor performance. Great time to bring up F5. Have you talked to F5 about this yet? Things like SharePoint or Exchange or OCS. Those are just a few examples, but Oracle, SAP, PeopleSoft. And it doesn't have to be the biggies. It could be anything that's web-based. And many times, some of the niche players are the obscure or legacy applications as well. Think of F5 whenever it's involving an application. If it's either mission critical, they need it to be up and running for their operations to be running or their business to be running or the cash registers to be ringing, then they need F5. If they haven't talked to F5, they should be talking to us. If they're using one of our competitors, they should be talking to us. If they're just using software load balancing, they should be talking to us. If they're trying to get by with just virtualization alone, they should be talking to us, especially if they have any issues with their applications, because a virtualization solution alone can't optimize applications in every scenario. We've seen some really good cases where F5 with virtualization is what's going to optimize those apps and ensure they're always available. So we go along with all the things that you're already doing, and that's one of the other great reasons to sell F5. Okay, so now you see all the reasons why you'd want to sell F5. You're comfortable with the elevator pitch. Let's talk about the products real briefly and what they do. If you're selling F5, you're going to be selling big IP. Big IP, that's what we're known for. And essentially, big IP is like one big IP address that's in front of your servers. That's where we came up with that name. And if you're selling big IP, you're selling LTM. And that stands for Local Traffic Manager. That's that hardware load balancer that sits on the LAN that's application fluent. It's that last hop before your servers. So that's the LTM. This is our cash cow. If you're selling F5, you're selling LTM probably 80 to 95% of the time. And essentially, this is a platform that everything else can ride on. So great solution, great product. On top of that, we also have GTM. That's our global traffic manager. So if you have multiple data centers, you would have an LTM running with a GTM. And now you can manage and load balance that traffic over the WAN for multiple data centers, so that if one data center were to go down, the traffic would, in an automated fashion, roll over to the other data center and really ensure persistence so that your end user is none the wiser. They wouldn't even know if something happened on the back end. So GTM is a great solution when you have multiple data centers, and it really automates disaster recovery projects. Another great solution, WA. WA is Web Accelerator. And Web Accelerator does what it says it does. It accelerates web traffic. And that may sound very simple and basic, but this is a white-hot selling module. More and more applications are webifying every day, and people demand more and more out of their websites and their web applications. And remote users expect their web applications to perform as if it's an application being hosted right there on their laptop or desktop. So this is a white-hot selling add-on module that you can run on an LTM, or you can run it as a dedicated solution on a single box. Great solution. Another product is our ASM. ASM stands for Application Security Manager. That's our application firewall. This is a leader in its space. It's up and to the right if you take a look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant in that space as well. And again, this is a module that can run on the LTM. So another great solution. And you know, these are all solutions that can run together on an LTM platform, and that can be a great opportunity for you to sell some nice solutions. We had a great success story just last quarter with a customer called Yellowbook. So this customer came to us initially with a hardware load balancing project on hand. And when we talked to them about what those servers were serving up and what applications they were using, we uncovered the fact that they were serving up a lot of web-intensive applications as well as their websites. So we introduced them to Web Accelerator, and they fell in love with it. So now we were talking to both the networking teams as well as the application teams about this project, and we had budget from two different groups now, multiple buckets to actually pay for this overall project. On top of that, we uncovered that they were taking credit cards over their websites as well, and they needed to be PCI compliant, so they needed a web application firewall. Well, the security team had that project in play already, so we introduced them to the ASM product. They fell in love with it, and when all three teams realized that they could manage this solution on one platform with one management console, they fell in love with the F5 solution. So we solved multiple problems and multiple projects with one solution, one management console, one platform. And that 100K deal grew to a 700K deal for our partner. So you can see how there's some great opportunity with F5, great upsell opportunity, and our guys will help you drive those. So, and again, we're doing it by selling solutions. So excellent opportunity to make good money with F5. On top of that, I mentioned earlier security, and we talked a little bit about that, but we have multiple solutions, and I'm really just going to sum them up with mentioning access control. So we have multiple ways to handle this. One is our Edge Gateway solution. Another one is our Access Policy Manager. And then we also have our FirePass product. You know, essentially I'm going to sum this up by telling you that with our solutions and offering access control, F5, because we're doing this on TMOS, we can give you better performance, better scalability, and more concurrent users than any of our competition, and typically at about half the cost. And one of the reasons people love our access control solutions is the fact that we actually have something called a visual policy editor, which is essentially like managing your access control using a Visio diagram. And so it's very easy to deploy these solutions, and managers just love the ease of use and deployment, on top of the fact that you can get about 40,000 concurrent users on one box at about half the per user cost versus your traditional SSL VPN solutions, for example. So definitely, when you're talking about access control projects, loop in F5. Let us work with your customer, and we'll tell you which is the best product for their scenario. So these are our big IP products, with the exception of FirePass, that actually does not run on TMOS. And again, our sales reps will solution sell for you. But I have one more product that I wanted to go through with you today. And for that product, I'm actually going to erase this because it sits in a different place. This last product is called ARX. So ARX is actually on the storage side of the house. And this is for unstructured data and network attached storage primarily. And with the ARX solution, what we're doing actually has a slightly different whiteboard. And I'm going to draw a few different boxes up here. And these boxes represent users and or applications. And on the back end, we're going to put your file storage. So your network attached unstructured data, your file storage, and I'm just going to draw one bar rather than multiple file servers. And today, here's what this looks like. These users and applications are mapped to individual files wherever they may reside. So you can see how quickly this becomes a bit of a spaghetti mess. And this is what it looks like today without the ARX solution. And what F5 has done is cleaned all of this up by inserting a layer of virtualization. So we clean all of this up now by, I'm going to draw it, you know what I'll do is I'll draw it with two boxes because these ARX solutions are typically deployed in pairs. And now everything is mapped instead to the ARX solution on the back end. And now your users and your applications are simply mapped to this one point, and we'll call this a global namespace. So now you have one access point that everything is mapped to. Now it's a nice whiteboard, it looks good, it's very clean, but what does that do for you? I'll tell you what it does for you. It does a few very major things. Number one, tiering. Storage tiering. Now you have one global namespace where you can apply policy. A simple policy like if this file hasn't been accessed in 60 to 90 days, go ahead and take it off of that expensive Tier 1 storage and move it to the less expensive, much cheaper Tier 2 storage. Just by doing that, our customers typically see ROI on the ARX solution in as little as 3 months. The solution pays for itself because now funds that we're going to go towards buying additional Tier 1 storage went for the ARX solution, and it more than pays for itself in a very short amount of time. So what else does this do for you? Another thing that this does for you is migrations. So migrations, now that you've got everything mapped to the ARX solution, this one global namespace, it gives you that freedom and flexibility so that, say a customer is running, let's just call it vendor A. Make that a little bit clearer. We'll just call it vendor A. So today maybe it could be NetApp, it could be EMC. With the ARX solution, it doesn't matter to us. We work with any heterogeneous environment. You can have multiple vendors behind us at the same time. Well, here's what's interesting. Maybe you've sold the solution to a customer and you've introduced them EMC, NetApp, whichever it may be, and you've sold them on all of the benefits of going to this new solution. And at the end of the day, they tell you, you know what? We love the solution, we love the price point, we love the functionality, but we can't do it because the downtime would just be too painful for us. Well, now you include the ARX solution with that sale, and you can actually eliminate that downtime by bringing up that existing vendor A behind us, and then at the same time introduce new vendor B. In the same environment, both of them will be virtualized behind us. And now, once both are up and running, you simply set a policy to drain the information from old vendor A over to new vendor B. Once everything is on to the new vendor and it's up and running and they're happy with the solution, you can go ahead and take out vendor A. And now they didn't have the downtime associated with that transition. So that's been a huge selling point, and it enables some of our partners to close business as well. And then the third thing is your traditional load balancing. We're also going to be load balancing the traffic, ensuring high performance and longer lifespan out of those file servers, just like we do with our traditional big IP product. So there you have it. That's the ARX solution. And really now you know plenty to go out and make good money with F5. You know the elevator pitch, you know where we sit on the network, you understand what's different about F5, what our secret sauce is, why we're the leader, and then also you can see what the products can do and you're comfortable with where we sit, but what do you look for? When are you going to think about F5? When do you tag us in? And let's go through that real briefly. If you're a partner that sells servers and infrastructure, there's an obvious opportunity there. If you're selling 5 or more servers, ask your customers what they're doing for load balancing. People still speak in those terms, so just ask them, hey, what are you guys doing for load balancing? If they're not using anything, they're trying to get by with software load balancing, they should be talking to us. If they're using one of our competitors, they should be talking to us. If they're just trying to get by with virtualization, they should be talking to us. So if somebody's buying a lot of servers, they're probably doing something for load balancing. Make sure that you're the guy that's selling that solution to them as well, just by asking that question. Another thing is data center projects. So if anybody's doing virtualization, consolidation, security, those are obvious opportunities to tag in F5. Ask them if they've talked to F5 yet. You know, I see that you guys are working on an overall consolidation plan here. Have you worked in F5? Have you talked to them about what they can do for you? They're doing some great things that can help you do more with less. Virtualization, again, we're an excellent technology partner for virtualization projects. Yes, we'll pay you more for the VMware solutions. That's part of our deal reg program, but it's not just VMware. It could be a Citrix virtualization project, Microsoft virtualization. Great times to tag us in. Excellent opportunities. And security. Securing remote users, securing applications, network access, excellent time to tag in F5. And then, of course, another biggie, and this is key, anything to do with applications. If it's application downtime, poor performance of an application, somebody is deploying a new application, great time to think of F5. So the biggies, of course, SharePoint. You'd be amazed at the percentage of customers that are looking at SharePoint these days. Some people have already looked at it, fell in love with the features and functionality, actually tried to deploy it and failed because it didn't scale. It couldn't perform. They didn't realize that there was a hardware solution that fixed their software problem. So make sure you bring it up to anybody who's looking at SharePoint, for example. Exchange 2010 is actually going to require a hardware load balancing solution for anybody that goes beyond the very basic minimum deployment. So that's a good opportunity. But it's not just those biggies. It's homegrown application, legacy applications, anything that's mission critical especially, that people have to rely on for their business, then they should be talking to F5. So these are the times that you want to think of F5. That's when you want to look for us and tag us in. And once you know that, and you know that you can work with our sales resources, they're easy to engage, we're channel-centric, you can make good money with these solutions, and this is a market where people need these solutions. It's a white-hot space right now. So people will spend money, and we can demonstrate value in multiple ways, both on ROI, many times just by removing all of the workload when people are trying to do software load balancing, offloading all of that to an F5 hardware load balancing and application delivery controller solution. We're going to be able to show ROI in 10 to 13 months. But on top of that, ensuring 99.999% availability of their mission-critical applications, that's priceless for many customers. So we have many different ways to show our value. And now you have all the tools you need to succeed with F5. It's a great partner to work with in a hot space. We go along well with all the things that you're already doing, and we're very easy to engage and work with. So tag us in. Think of F5. I appreciate you taking the time again today. Again, it's Neil Sullivan. Thanks for the time, and happy selling.